How does Bruce Lee fit into my life? Well, he sits between Michael Jordan and Steve Jobs in my office. And every time I see him, I think work ethic, self-motivated mastery. And you probably know his films, Enter the Dragon, Way of the Dragon, Game of Death. For this noise, the 1-inch punch, and this. But you probably don't know that they had to slow him down because cameras couldn't catch him. Or the fact he wasn't in many films, but he's known around the world. It's because he was more than a martial artist, a movie star, and an icon. He was a man with a deep philosophy of self-investigation. And it's this process of continual education and mastery that draws me to the life of Bruce Lee. Welcome to Must See Films. My name's Darren, and this channel is helping you see films differently. The cultural impact of Bruce Lee is undeniable, and fighting against the studio to let him combine the martial arts of Enter the Dragon with his deep philosophy was the coupling that made the film stand the test of time, showcasing his talent but also the mindset that led him there. But in his untimely death before the film's release, Lee was never able to see the international success his message had. And even today, people are still fascinated with his work and his way of thinking. So let's explore some of the lessons that Bruce Lee has taught me about chasing my ambition. For most people, the access point for Lee's teachings is through his films, but digging a little deeper, there is a wealth of study that has shaped this man. So whenever you see him on screen, we see that depth, we feel that confidence. And it may be easy to assume that this man was gifted, but his writing suggests otherwise. You know, I started journaling in 2014. This was a way to explore my inner self at the time of studying the work of Paul Chek. And one thing Paul suggests is raising our awareness so that we can feel our truth buzzer. You know, when we hear or we see something and part of us lights up inside, meaning that this thing has significance for us and we should pay attention to it. My truth buzzer went off when I started reading Bruce Lee's The Artist of Life, and many of his journal entries of self-exploration and self-investigation and refinement. From my own study, it seems like other great thinkers throughout time were saying variations of the same message, of demanding more of oneself and taking action. You know, Ralph Waldo Emerson has a whole book on self-reliance. Paul Chek's main message for achieving help is take responsibility for yourself. Charlie Chaplin had this great quote, "Imagination is nothing without doing." Rudolf Steiner suggested that you set your will daily. And Bruce Lee? I know that I have the ability to achieve the object of my definite purpose in life. Therefore, I demand persistent, continuous action towards its attainment, and I here and now promise to render such actions. So recently I've been waking up in the morning and writing down something to set my will upon. Usually a task that I should do, but it's not really a must. And by demanding more of myself, it strengthens my mental toughness. An amazing thing happens after a few weeks of doing this. You start to believe in your ability to do things. You channel your action. You make it happen despite your mood. Tony Robbins used to talk about one of the keys to success is emotional fitness. And I feel like setting your will every day is like training. The reason that this message hit me so hard now is because I feel like I've been through phases of study and feeling like I know everything, but then why isn't it happening? But knowledge isn't power. Knowledge is potential power, and lack of movement or action is the real reason for a lack of progress. So lesson 1 is focus and take action. Bruce defied the limitations of Hollywood by being the first and perhaps only Asian leading man, and because of what he showed was possible, along with his philosophy of under the heaven we are but one family, this made him instantly accepted by all cultures and races, turning him into a symbol or a mythic figure of what can be achieved with consistent daily hard work and focus. But as much as that's what he stands for now, Bruce was very much against the idea of style. He liked the idea of no way as the way. Not being trapped in any limitations or rules, he was free to really evolve and grow however his soul was calling for him to grow. Giving us one of the many interpretations of his famous quote.
Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
So lesson 2 is an appropriate duality to the aggressive action of lesson 1. It's more about yielding and surrendering and not forcing things. At the core of simplicity is to reduce, is to cut off. And part of attaining mastery in anything requires sacrificing time invested elsewhere. One of the biggest distractions today is information. It's addictive, it's toxic, and it's non-stop. The problem with consistent interaction and no silence in one's life is that it leads to mental and physical depletion without awareness. Paul Chek discusses the idea that thinking can only be effective when used in relation to feeling. And I've also heard Arnold Patton describe it as intuition and wisdom from God can only be spoken to you when you're not talking. Again, emphasizing the need for some silence in one's life. So lesson 3 is,
don't think, feel.
Another downside to never having quiet time in your life is, by never being alone with yourself, you never have the chance to find out who you really are and what you really think without all these external influences. Lee believed in doing this deep self-work privately, and then through this self-investigation, you're able to go into the world and express yourself honestly because you know who you are. And it's been said that one of the greatest goals in life that takes a lifetime to figure out is know thyself. And it's this daily practice of journaling and examining your own experience with openness and honesty that allows Lee to cultivate such a confidence in himself. So lesson 4, honestly express yourself. So my honest belief right now is it would be meaningless to do an analysis of one of Bruce Lee's films because it would only scratch the surface of this man's work, when really it's the man himself that is worthy of study and investigation. Being able to see the honest and raw journal entries of someone like Bruce Lee is like being able to see the behind the scenes of a magic show, but it also humanizes this man that has become legend. These are the 3 best books that have helped me explore Bruce's mindset. The first is The Artist of Life, a collection of his journal entries and writings. The second is Words from a Master, 3 written down interviews with Bruce. And the third is The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, which was wrote by Bruce himself, mostly about martial arts, but there is definitely a lot of his deep philosophy layered throughout it. Now, Bruce's daughter Shannon Lee has also recently started a podcast on his father's teaching, and after years of negotiation is now in charge of the Legacy Foundation. So on this filmmaking journey to educate myself, take action and demand more of myself, I have employed the advice and wisdom of some of the greats. I feel like Bruce Lee's life has more to teach me about going after my ambition, and that these lessons will apply more broadly than just filmmaking, but also living a better life. He's also the 3rd person I've covered in this Life of an Artist series, and I wonder who else inspires you to go after your dreams. Now, I'll be in the comments below if you'd like to share and discuss, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next in the series. Now, if you have the means and you'd like to help me continue on my filmmaking journey, feel free to support on Patreon. The money that was raised there just this week allowed me to purchase this new microphone, and this video is the first that features it. So thank you to my patrons, and thank you to Bruce Lee for your open and honest example of a life shaped through self-cultivation.